Today we're going to talk about think and zoom and overcoming disabilities with creative abilities. Again, my name is Zuby Onwuta. I was a former NSBE member, Region 4, University of Illinois, Chicago. I went to many national conventions. How many of you have been to nationals? Wow, I expected all of the room. I got 4 consecutive internships from nationals. So how many of you will go to nationals next year? Okay, that's better. Awesome, awesome, cool. All right, think and zoom, or turning personal problems into global solutions. It's a very unique tagline. So what is it all about? Well, for me to explain, allow me to take you on a journey. Many years ago, a young boy left his home country, Nigeria, to come to the United States to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a medical doctor. Before then, he was already a stellar student, top of his class, so he had the grades. He knew he could do it. But when he landed, like the typical immigrant, he came with a duffel bag and $200, and quickly figured out he was missing what? Just a few significant zeros, right? He needed $200,000. In order to finance his education, since he was really, really broke, he joined the US Army so that he could be all he could be. So when he started pre-med, he enrolled with the US Army. And life was great, folks. He was about to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a medical doctor, and someone was going to foot the bill. I mean, couldn't get a better deal than that. Life was great. I mean, you couldn't imagine how happy this person was at that time. Well, barely 2 years into both careers, something terrible happened. His eyesight took a huge decline, and he became legally blind. To give you context, in barely 2 years, his corrected vision, meaning that is with prescription glasses, went from 20/40 to 2200. So that means twice as worse than normal vision, all the way down to 10 times worse than normal vision. He became literally disabled. Can you imagine what was going through his mind at that time? In one day, at Fort Leonard Wood on a cold spring day, the Army told him, hey, Private O, you have to go, bye-bye. So in one day, both of his dreams flew out of the window. What would you do at that point? He was really crushed. He was really depressed. But after a while of dealing with depression, he said, okay, I have to figure out something to do, right? And he picked a third career, computer engineering. Now, let me explain a little bit about what is legal blindness. So, in his case, he had been diagnosed with a rare eye disorder, macular degeneration. Simply means that the macula, which is the central part of your retina, in his case, was just decaying. It was just breaking down. And so the photoreceptor cells responsible for vision were dying. Surgery can't correct it since it's a genetic disorder. Now, his particular ailment, Stargardt, had some very known behavior. One is once you get to the 2200, it stabilizes. It doesn't get, worse. It stabilizes. So the doctor says, hey, your vision is going to be at 2200. All you need to do is get some magnifiers to help you enlarge things, zoom things. Your vision will never fluctuate, and you'll be fine. So armed with that information, he went into his third career, engineering. But unfortunately, his symptoms never matched what the doctors told him. His vision not only fluctuated daily, but it continued to decline. And mind you, he picked computer engineering. Now, how many of you are familiar with the circuits class, circuits and analysis? I'm sure you all are, right? The bread box, right? So if you're legally blind, how are you supposed to get your circuits working? It's kind of a tough challenge, right? So he struggled so much with engineering at some point, he actually flunked out. And that's when he discovered the Office of Disability Services. So for him to graduate, they hired a note taker that will go with him to every class and sit with him. Every class, they will sit side by side like twins, and the note taker will take notes for him. And everybody looked at him like he was crazy, right? So that's how I was able to graduate. But the journey didn't end there. There's still more to come. So now he's graduated and gets a job working for a Fortune 500 company. You would think things will ease up, but not quite. Barely 2 years into his full-time job, his vision took another decline and he ended up at the School for the Blind. So here's this person who's got his first full-time engineering gig. And within your first 3 years, you're trying to prove yourself, you're trying to work hard, put in all those long hours to get your first promotion. But for him, he had to leave work and go and train in non-visual skills at a School for the Blind. Wow. What would you do at that point? This was really very crushing and devastating for this human being. But after he finished his training, he went back to work and restarted his career. Like from zero, reset. Now at this point, it was very clear to him that something was wrong in the sense that his symptoms never matched what the doctors told him. So he threw himself into research and he started reading up everything he could find out about retinal problems. He sort of became an expert on macular degeneration. After all, his first love was really medicine. Many years later, he read a blog where his eye ailment, Stargardt's, was described as a complex group of diseases. And boom, 6 weeks later, he was at Johns Hopkins. Now, are you guys familiar with Johns Hopkins? I mean, it's only one of the best medical institutions we have in the country, right? So when he got to Johns Hopkins, he was very sure that he will find all the answers to his eye problems. Well, 2 weeks of daily testing, and these folks still couldn't give him specific answers. It's like, wow, what is really going on? Their best answer was, we have to do DNA sequencing. So he did 3 extra months of DNA sequencing, and guess what they found? He won the lottery. He had 3 rare eye disorders. 3. Now for you, it might be very confusing or difficult to understand what it means to have one of these rare eye disorders. But let me give you a different example. Do you all have a laptop? Okay. If one computer virus was affecting your laptop, how would it behave? Bad, right? The generic answer is bad. What if 3 viruses were affecting your laptop? Did you hear the responses? Like, the responses are now all over the place, right? Unpredictable. You can't even tell what's going on, right? So that's what it's like to have 3 rare eye disorders. At this point, the engineering career got too much to handle, and so, boom, that career ended as well. So folks, let's picture this now. Medicine, gone. Army, gone. Engineering, gone. Again, what would you do at this point? Give up? Well, that's an option. May not be the best one, but it's certainly an option on the table. Folks, this individual, after losing 3 careers, asked himself, enough is enough. How can I rewrite this story for a better outcome? What are some of the underlying problems in the story? Well, for one, it took way too long to get an accurate and complete diagnosis, right? In his case, it took about a decade and a half, 300 different eye care professionals. How much do you think it will cost to see about 300 different eye care professionals? Yeah, getting warm. More than 200, that's right. Yeah, more than 500,000. Let's leave it at more than 500,000. It's a whole lot of money, right? And we know that medical insurance isn't very cooperative, right? So it costs way too much, took too much time to get a complete diagnosis. So that's one problem. We need a better method. We need an early detection method and a way to streamline the diagnosis. So that's one. Two is, just like it's very difficult for me to actually impress upon you what it's like to have a rare eye disorder, can you imagine what it's like for him to tell his professors or his employee, his employer, his manager? How do you think those people will respond to him when he tries to describe that he has all these eye problems? Do you think they will understand? No. Exactly. So there has to be a better way to educate people so that people can understand what it means to deal with these kinds of rare eye disorders. So there has to be a better education method. That's another issue. And then, what about the coping devices? Well, the doctor said, just get something that helps you to enlarge, to zoom, to magnify, and you'll be great. Well, turns out that today's magnifying solutions all require manual operation. Again, might be difficult for you to understand it, but imagine this. Imagine that as you're sitting where you're sitting, for you to be able to see me, you have to hold your eye with one or two hands. How many of you will like that deal? He said, nah, nobody will like that. So the question then becomes, is it possible to mimic the natural way of seeing? All of you are sitting down, you can look and see. Can we put an X between look and see? Can we make it a math equation? What can we do in between look and see to mimic the natural way of seeing? Is it possible to look, think, and zoom to see? Folks, I'm Zuby Onwuta. That's my story you just heard. And yes, it is possible to mimic the natural way of seeing by tapping into our naturally occurring brain waves. This is the story of how I invented Think and Zoom, the ability of humans to see better by simply thinking. Do you guys believe that, or you think it's just... I believe it. So folks, these were the nitty-gritty steps. These were the reasons. This was that never-ending desire to seek answers, that never-ending desire of thinking better, to find a better solution, to find a better way. These were the steps. These were the things that led to the innovation that today is called Think and Zoom. It's a brain-powered solution that's going to help 300 million people worldwide, like myself, see better by simply thinking. Now, I know you guys didn't just come here to hear me speak because I have a loud voice, right? You guys came to see the real stuff, right? So you guys want to see how it works? All right. Yeah. I didn't really hear, I don't know. Do you guys want to see how it works? Yeah. Oh, now you guys are loud. Okay. All right. So folks, what you're seeing here is a game called Kenti, K-E-N-T-I. It's available in the Apple App Store. It won an award at Apple Worldwide Developer Conference 2 years ago. The purpose of that game is to shrink that time it takes to get a complete and thorough diagnosis of eye ailments by targeting children so that you can detect visual impairment problems in them very early. There is really no way today to ask a 3-year-old, hey, are you losing your vision? They just don't have the words. And with all the technology we have today, you still don't get a text or a tweet that you're losing your vision, right? But with a game like this that can monitor a child's play over time, the goal is to detect their pattern of play and detect any kind of decline. And analysis should be able to tell if that child is losing their vision. And as you can see, I'm using my magneto powers to play that game, right? You guys seem too quiet. So we want to collect, gameplay data, analyze it, but also provide it to eye care professionals so that it can augment and streamline the diagnosis, so that no other person has to go through 300 different eye care professionals or spend 14 years trying to find answers. So that's the Kenti game. Yeah. No, the other one.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So by me simply thinking, I'm able to magnify and zoom into anything in front of me.
Wow.
Oh, now she gets it. I thought you did it a couple minutes ago. So folks, that is my story. That is Think and Zoom that you just witnessed. Wow. Hi folks, I'm in a restaurant and I'm struggling to see the menu. Take a look at that. See how blurry it is? This is what it looks like for those who are visually impaired. Is there an easy way for me to just see better? Is there an easy way for me to see the menu so I can just simply order something to eat? Can I use my mind to make that screen clearer? Let's give it a shot. All right, let's see what's happening now. Aha, it's getting clearer. And I see chicken. Folks, now I can look, think, and zoom in to see better into anything I want to see. Thank you. Thank you. So, if you think about life today, right? So many things going on. But before I end, I want to leave you guys with 2 thoughts. One is we always have to have the mindset of think better. Steve Jobs said, think different. For me, I said, think better. How many of you enjoyed the jollof rice? A lot of people, right? Do you think that jollof rice was cooked indoors or outdoors? It was probably made indoors, right? That's because several thousand years ago, our ancestors who made fire outside innovated and figured out a way to get heat on the inside, right? And so now we can cook inside. But 100,000 years ago, they used to scratch stones outside, right, to make fire. So all the stuff you have today, all the technology, your clothes, everything, right? Some people have had that mindset of think better to keep, iteratively innovating to make things better. So we all have to think better. And the second thing is we have to learn to be problem solvers. The natural instinct is always to complain about something, right? This is not working. That is not working. Why can't it be this way? Why can't it be that way? But we don't really take the time to present solutions. So what if we all took the time to prepare ourselves to be problem solvers? What if we all took the time to learn to turn our personal problems into global solutions? What kind of world will we create? I'll tell you what kind of world we'll create. We'd be able to create a world where all the NSBE UT Austin students will get a job before graduation. We'd be able to create a world where all the folks who need makeups to match their skin tones can easily find that makeup. Right? Shout out to Rihanna, who was just named top 25 Innovator of the Year by Time Magazine for her beauty makeup line called what? There you go. She turned her personal problem into a global solution, right? Folks, we'd be able to create a world where all of us can look, think, and zoom in to a better, brighter future. Thank you.